So as part of the R2M program, one of the most important things was going through the customer and ecosystem discovery process. So during that process, we conducted nominally about 20 interviews on key stakeholders that are in the industry, and we learned a lot of things. And I would say, as a professor, we like to talk a lot, and we have the opportunity to talk a lot. What the customer discovery process does is it enables us to listen and to learn about what key problems are out there. Because at the end of the day, the technology, I came from industry, and the technology that we want to develop, we want to see it commercially adopted. We want it to be making a difference. And I often think about the land-grant mission for the university. It's teaching, service, and outreach. And the outreach portion is taking things that we've learned and putting it into practice. And what better way to put it into practice is to have somebody actually purchase and buy the technology that we've developed. But the only way that people will do that is if we bring some value and solve a particular problem. So, I'm an engineer. Problem solving's in my blood. So I like to hear about problems and to use my creative juices to come up with unique solutions to solve them. And it's hard to come up with a solution if you don't listen. And so that's what the customer discovery process really did for us. For example, one of the things that we learned when we went out is that not only are there technological and cost barriers, but there's also social acceptance barriers for the technology that currently exists in the market. And so we've been using that information to change our pitch to both investors as well as government funders, and it's been successful. We've got some follow-on funding, for example, from the U.S. Navy to continue to do that work. And I think without learning the skills to listen to what the problems really are, we'll just be stuck with technology in the lab that doesn't get out and make a difference.
It took us, so I started working on the project in October 2017. We thought we were doing Windows probably for the first year and a half. In 2019, when we incorporated, I think we were on a soul searching, so that's about a year and a half. And I think really just in the last year, 2020, we've solidified where we think we might go to market. And even now, we're still doing customer discovery. So we're 3 years out from when I jumped on the project and still looking for the market. We've made sales, so we know there's a market pull. It's just a matter of how do we want to segment our go-to-market strategy at this point, which is a great problem to have.
I think the process of customer discovery is really critical, actually, and something I didn't know anything about at the beginning of founding my company. I think the way I approached meeting potential customers was being worried about getting a no. So I was very focused on investments and partnerships. I think if I had taken some time just to ask questions and listen, people are very willing to tell you what their company needs and give you their impressions and their opinions, and that is really valuable. So instead of thinking of each meeting like there has to be some kind of an outcome, I think scheduling a lot of meetings with different kinds of customers would be incredibly valuable, and I wish I had known how to do that at the beginning.
The more we interact with the marketplace, actually a lot of time we let the market dictate, because at the end of the day, who pays us revenue is what essentially people will pay us money when we provide the value to them. So, for example, specifically for our company, at the beginning we thought, big pharma companies, for obvious reasons, they are likely our first customers. It's true, they continually to buy our products, but in small R&D quantities. But at the same time, because big pharma, they have resources, so they would like to do things their own, and they don't like to share. On the other hand, another segments of the market, actually in two cases, they knock on our doors. So we don't have to knock on their doors. Seems like they have more acute needs for what we're doing, and they don't have the budget. and expertise that big pharma do. They actually need our expertise to help them advance their objective.
I think one of the most interesting parts of it was really the focus on customer discovery, really trying to understand, what is it that you're trying to do? How are you going to reach out to and satisfy the needs of the people that you're trying to produce this product, this information and these tools for. So from that standpoint, it was a really excellent experience, and I took a lot away from it.
Okay, so the importance of effective customer discovery, I can speak to this over and over again. Many times as entrepreneurs, we go into these customer discovery interviews thinking that we already know what a customer wants, and we think we have that solution. So the advice that I would give is to truly go into this process with an open mind and with good structured questions that are aimed at getting valuable feedback, and really be ready to listen. It also means that your team has to be flexible. So you might not always get the feedback that you're prepared to hear, but this is sometimes the best feedback the feedback that's needed the most to translate your technology to market and to really establish a viable, strong business opportunity. So I would also say that customer discovery is important even if you're writing a grant. So for example, in SBIR, which CyVek has pursued several SBIR grants, and we've successfully been awarded SBIR grants, but you need to know and show support for a market opportunity for your technology in order to get funded. So it goes beyond just understanding your customer, but also if you're trying to get non-dilutive funding, understanding your customer is very important, and really being flexible and listening when you're going through that process is very important.
As a young research scientist at Colorado State University, we had a lot of great ideas. At one point, we decided to take our science from a fundamental to an applied approach, and that's where we developed a technology that we wanted to put in the market. We didn't know anything else except that's what we wanted to do. So we engaged, luckily, in the discovery platform, the business model canvas, the I-Core program, which allowed us as young scientists to get out of the building and talk to people in real markets, to calibrate our perspective of value, our perspective of technology with reality, with the perspective of potential customers. It was absolutely critical when we engaged in the I-Core cohort in July 2015. We didn't know what we didn't know. The discovery platform, which I think is critical for success for young companies, allows us to calibrate through discovery and data-driven exercises in the market, in the real world, our perspectives of reality with actual reality. They say if you can talk to 100 people and collect that size of data set, you'll understand exactly how well your market, your product will fit within any particular market. And I believe that. That's kind of the process that we engaged in, and I think it's absolutely important. And again, we wouldn't be around without that process. And I think even more importantly, we still engage in that process. As we engage in new market opportunities, we use the same exact hypothesis-driven methodology that we would use as scientists to calibrate our perspective of what we know by engaging with people in those markets to calibrate our perspective of reality with actual market reality. It allows us to bridge our success through data. It's absolutely critical. And again, I don't know how companies succeed without it, especially as a young startup.
The second company I co-founded in 2006 was Solix Biofuels, that was focused on cultivating algae to produce biofuels. Great team we put together to combine engineering and biology to reduce the cost of cultivating algae, sucking in carbon dioxide and producing useful products. Ultimately, we were able to show conclusively that we really could not produce fuels at a cost that was low enough to compete with cheap petroleum. However, along the way, we realized that the algae that we were producing actually were much more valuable as nutritional products, producing heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acids like Icoso, EPA, and DHA that are worth 100 times more per gallon as nutritional products than they were as fuel. So Solix is still in business now 14 years later, but as a nutritional products company.
One of the key aspects of the I-Core program is customer discovery, getting out of the building and talking to people out in the real world. We learned so much through those conversations. A couple of things that we learned in particular. One is that we don't know, as academics, we don't necessarily know a lot about how people might use our product. There's so many things that go into the decision-making process to use a product or a service. You really have to understand the customer experience, understand their decision-making process, understand what goes into their decisions. There are often many barriers to commercialization and to getting a customer to embrace your product. Through those interviews and going out into the real world and seeing how those customers utilize products like the one that we had developed, we learned about those barriers and we were able to identify a unique path to market.
I'm a great example of someone who should have gone through customer discovery when they started a company. I was involved in a startup called Sunlight Direct that a colleague and I had developed a technology to concentrate sunlight, separate out the infrared portion to generate electricity, and pipe the visible portion of the spectra through optical fibers into buildings to light the interior of buildings. And I thought we were going to change the world by essentially putting sunlight in every room and illuminating all portions of sort of indoor environment through our technology. And we developed the technology before doing customer discovery, and we did a host of demonstrations in different locations, like in a Walmart store, in Texas, in Hawaii. So we spent literally years and millions of dollars putting the technology in places that really wasn't its first market. And had we done customer discovery, we would have learned that jewelry stores and furniture stores who really could benefit from the value of having sparkling jewelry or well-displayed product was probably the first market. And so we essentially blew through a couple $1 million of venture capital funding doing these large-scale demonstrations in Walmarts and places like that, when what we should have done was work with jewelry stores and furniture stores first, sort of work out the kinks in those sorts of environments, and then from there move into the larger markets.